Remember, please hit like and subscribe for me. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go.
Hi, everyone. Today's Wednesday, September the 17th. My name is Anne-Marie Band, and this is the Moneyball Morning Report for the Benzinga Pro platform. We have a very big day of volatility ahead. I do want to show you something very interesting, and we're going to look at TradeWave, and we're going to look at SPY. So what we're going to notice is that the date here, which begins on September 11th, shows a little bit of spiking. Let's not use 6 years. Let's use the full, let's use 20 years, right? And what we can see is that round and about the 19th, all the way to maybe the 27th, right? So we're only looking about maybe 8 to 10 days, really. You can see this tremendous drawdown. Of course, that's the GFC. But we are noticing that this is a very negative patch, and it's going to last for about a week because we are in a pervasive buy the dip environment, right? And so what that piece of information we just looked at from TradeWave tells us is that a bounce is going to very likely give us a selling zone that will, of course, be bought up. And so let's use volume to help us track location. We're going to look at the high volume event that occurred on the closing candlestick of September the 12th. And you can see the rotations all the way up. It goes to 4 and really collapses right off of that edge right about the 16th when that data analysis says that it's going to have some issues. So what do we expect? With an FOMC meeting coming in, I suspect that this move into the Fed rates coming down a little is more of a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event, and we're fading in front of it, but we should see a bounce. Chair Powell is going to be at the press conference after the 2:30 release. Watch that area very carefully. I've got a sweet spot that I suspect will be a sell zone anywhere between this 6,690 to 6,687. I'm actually going to put a wishing order up there to see if it spikes high enough for me to get a short, which I suspect will continue to fade and then be bought up around the area that sits in this 4 a.m. candlestick from Europe day before yesterday, right? Because we have a pervasive bid in the market, I expect it to be bought up pretty quickly. If not, we're looking at the 6,630 area. So what are we staring down? We're staring down the volume point of control and the VWAP being at the same place at 6,671. We have an opening candlestick formation that faded and then bounced and then faded again. And so in the near term, this closing candlestick formation we see here for yesterday, where all the bigger volume is sitting, that zone is a fight zone. And you can see the traders trying to get in there right now. The 50% range, round and about that point of control. So I expect bouncing action that fades. Now, if it comes in the other direction and it's fading action first, we're going to look for the fade to bounce and then fade again. So pretty sticky market. The 4:30 candlestick is holding more volume than the 4 a.m. candlestick. And so it might be worthwhile, making the charts a little bit messy, but it might be worthwhile to draw Fibonacci to see if they're going to hold this zone. And lo and behold, that's where they're doing it, 6,660. They're going to be buying that range, trying to get themselves up and into the value area and the top of this 430 candlestick formation. Right now, we've got piano keys, right? We have down candle, up candle, down candle, up candle. So definitely sitting in a tight range here, but you can see the buyers underneath. All right, I think today's going to be very sticky in these edges. I'm going to be waiting for the key prices to get involved. And as I mentioned, it could be all the way up here at 6,687 to 6,690 on the spike into the afternoon, or 6,675 ends up being the top of the range. If this happens, I think it gives us the opportunity for more weakness, but TradeWave certainly telling me that's what is on the horizon, and so that's what I'm staring down. All right. Value area high, 6,678. Value area low, where we're rejecting, 6,665. But the traders are trying to come in here off the bottom, so you want to be careful trying to short something like this. The VWAP is at around 6,666. That's a lot of sixes. But yeah, that's what we're staring down. So watch those edges, folks. That's where they're going to give you your ideal spaces. And remember, if you're trading these very tight time frames, like I taught about last week or Monday, man, it's only been a couple of days, feels like forever. When you use those high volume candlesticks to give yourself ranges in the near term, they will work, but don't expect them not to try to shake the trees and let short traders come in. So you want to watch your risk here. You want to watch those risks, and you want to go backwards in time to see where the other high volume candles are. And you'll notice this 5 a.m., excuse me, was it 5 a.m.? Yeah, the 7 a.m. candlestick that's on the 5-minute chart really shows the 6660 area that we can see on the bigger frameworks, okay? But as you can see, that 5-minute candlestick shows the near-term volume, and it goes from the bottom to the top, okay? This is how it works. I promise. It's pretty amazing that it works like that. So you want to be careful about holding things, and then remember, not telescoping so close that you don't look to the left and go, okay, where is support really from a bigger picture? Where can I say to myself, all right, that's a big volume candlestick. I should go from the bottom to the top of it. And if you decide, hey, I want to short this, immediately say to yourself, wait a second, if I short that, where's the bigger volume candlestick and larger things of note that are going to tell me, you know what, you probably ought to wait until it gets to the VWAP, until it gets to the point of control, until it gets to prior support, old resistance. Don't telescope in or you're going to get shaken out. All right, let's do the NQ next. Same sort of thing. They're trying to buy this edge. Topping formation, same sort of thing that TradeWave is telling us, 24,630. You can see how they're fighting here. They've come to the low of this high volume 4-hour candlestick and bought it up. Also happens to be the value area low. That's 24,464. As we collapse into the range, we will see closing formation. Last 30-minute candlestick of the day, that's where they're trying to get into. Once they get into that pocket, they'll try to move up to the halfway spot. But if we are making high, low, lower high, just a retest of the low, another lower high, and then this move down, the bounce is very likely to give us a sell zone. But don't underestimate the power of the bounce. This 30-minute candlestick, which is, 30 minutes later than the 4-hour formation, really gives us a resistance zone at 24,527. That is the close of the 4-hour candlestick. That is still resistance. Okay, so potentially a shorting area right there. I like to expect these wicks, right? Especially if we look at the closing candlestick formation all the way up here at 24,560 or so. Opening candle formation, let's draw Fibonacci on that one. I'm going to draw it top to bottom so we can see they're following these Fibonacci's, and the 50% range, 24,561. Notice, hits it almost on the nose. Once, almost here, twice, 3, 4 times. There are sellers up here. If they get forced out of the way, we're going to go to 24,602. All right, so very messy day ahead. Very high volatility, especially towards the afternoon. We could stay choppy during the course of the day, or big money might try to shove the market around. Okay, all kinds of things going on here. I would say watch for your edges to take positions. That's going to be the better bet. Gold is the next one I'll take a look at, as I'm running behind. My first recording did not have a good time doing that. Okay, so let's go to the 4-hour. As I mentioned yesterday, these are financialized products. If the market rotates down for the next 3-4 days, like it could potentially do, this is going to sell off too, because it is financialized. It is not physical, and people are going to take their money out of the market, with liquidity being that thing they would like to capture for themselves and take profit, because people are massively long this gold instrument. It is really running very hot. Easily we could get to 4,000 by the end of the year, but it is financialized, and so anything can happen. All right, that being said, large 4-hour candlestick from yesterday gives us a low of 3,715. That's current resistance right now. The midpoint is actually also the closing VWAP measure, and that's at around 3,727. Dips continue to be buy zones. That upside pressure event tells us, hey, if I get here and I can't get over it, that's going to give me another short. And that short should bring us into the point of control at around 3,684 to 3,690. And then we'll see what happens from there. Lower edges, 3,660, 3,651. And, potentially 3,623. Shallow dips, deep dips, they're all going to try and be bought, but we could see a lot of volatility, so don't blow up your account trying to participate here, because it could be rowdy in a big fat hurry. On the 30-minute formation, our opening high volume pre-market, look at all of this pre-market action, holy smokes. Here is a 30-minute candlestick that is almost as big as the 10 a.m. candlestick from yesterday. And so that low of that 10 a.m. candlestick, you can see we've got 90 minutes of significant selling that comes into this floor at 3,715 that we saw on the 4-hour chart. Bounce to a lower high. That is a typical example of rotation confirmed with momentum that slips right off a cliff. And then we've got another area of forced selling. My thought is anywhere up here into the 37.15 to 37.18 area is going to give us a sell zone. All right. They are holding the closing VWAP of day before yesterday, 3,695. We'll see how it goes. Trend, we're in between two moving averages, right? One is down, one is up. VWAP is down. Bounces should give us sell zones. Lot of selling activity here. A lot of selling activity. So you want to be careful. Lastly, we'll take a look at SPY. This was the trade wave chart that we looked at, describing this formation. You can see the topping event around at about the 16th. That's yesterday. Here we are trying to hold the floor. Big spike there, not on any particular news, but we've got 660.60 and then 661.76. Value area low, 658. Where could we go on any kind of fade? Depends on how aggressive the selling is. We could go from 56 to 52, right? And then they're going to try and buy it again. They could easily try and buy 656.90, where this wick is. Price action here, very sideways, but I certainly am looking for the bounces to sell into trade waves seasonality event. And you can see them. This is the closing candlestick formation. You can see them trying to get up in here. Look at this wick. This wick tells me that we should get to the top of this box. And that will give us the next selling pressure event in my mind. So I'm looking for it to look above the 660 and then fail. Look above the 660 to 661 and then fail. That's going to give me the ideal pressure event. All right, everyone, that's it for me. I'll see you on the screens. You know, Wednesday I'm largely out of pocket. And I'll be back to my desk for the Fed release, however. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.